What's up, guys, and welcome back to the latest episode of my gaming news podcast. Now, this is episode 9, I believe. It's probably been a little while since the last one, as per usual, but you can find this podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and plenty of other places. If you want a video version, you can find that live, like it is now, on twitch.tv/GoneHollowLive, or you can find the video version on my YouTube channel, Gone Hollow Media, all one word. So there's plenty of different places for you guys to check this podcast out. If you are driving in your car, if you are commuting, or if you are just at home and chilling and you want to watch it on the big screen or on your phone, then go ahead. So let's get into the news for this week. But first and foremost, let's get into a bit of my backlog, my progress, what is going on with gaming, and what I'm doing, basically, what I've been playing over the last couple of weeks. So in the previous couple of parts, we have been talking a lot about Elden Ring, and last time I was very stuck on the boss of Melania, and I was having a lot of trouble, and I did not see a path forward on how I was going to be able to get past that boss, essentially. So the news update there for Elden Ring is that I managed to beat Melania. In fact, I've managed to beat the end boss of the game as well, so I have pretty much finished the story of Elden Ring. I haven't pressed the thing at the end of the game to sort of start the end cutscene, so I don't actually know what happens, but I have basically done the last boss. So the only boss that I still have to beat, which is sort of a main boss, it's optional but still, is the Dragon Lord Placidius. I'm not sure how you pronounce that name, but he's the only big one I still need to finish off. So how I beat Melania was I had another weekend of fighting this boss over and over again, and honestly I was playing it for about 4 or 5 hours straight, and I was going to do a stream of something else. I was going to play a horror game on stream, and I was that stressed out and that demoralized fighting Melania. I was like, I'm just going to hit stream, I'm going to hit record on the PlayStation 5 while I was playing, and keep playing until I beat Melania, essentially. And it was a 2-hour stream, so that took my total of playtime on that day of about 7 hours. 7 hours pretty much straight of fighting Melania, and in the end I absolutely demolished her. Honestly, I got really lucky, but at the same time I'd fought her so many times, I'd learned all of her movesets, it all came into place, and I beat her, and I was so happy. I felt like a massive weight was off my shoulders after that fight, because it was just plaguing me for weeks, basically. And it was semi smooth sailing after that. Getting the last boss was a bit tough, but once I'd figured out sort of its movesets, took it down, not too much of a problem, actually. So yeah, Elden Ring, it's been a long process. I've been playing it for since launch, so end of February, so March, April, May, June. So it's taken me nearly 4 months of playing to get through the game, 200 hours in, but there's still lots of stuff to do for the game to get the platinum. So I've gotten all the talismans I can in my first playthrough, so now I'm going to work through these sorceries, incantations, and all the other bits that I can do in one playthrough before I move on to the next. In fact, I might not even start a New Game Plus yet. I might wait till the DLC comes out and do it all in my first playthrough. But that's what I've got to say about Elden Ring. I'm just so happy that I've gotten past Melania, because it was just, yeah, let's not go there. It took me a lot of time, probably 20 hours of boss fight, I swear to God. So next up, we're still playing Final Fantasy 13. This will tie a little bit into some of the news as well with the new Final Fantasy game, but I was trying to get through these games as quick as possible. I started with 7. I've said this in a few podcasts now. I started with 7 and I've got all the way up to 13, and I was hoping that 16 was out this year. So I wanted to catch up in time, but now we know it's not coming so soon, so I can slack off a little bit on trying to complete these games as fast. But I've been having a good time with this one. It's the only issue I have with this game. It's kind of level gated. You end up being sort of stuck in a chapter, and you can't progress your skills anymore until you beat the next boss and move on to the next one. So you kind of feel like you're level gated, and all your grinding that you do does not let you progress until you've actually got to the next chapter. So that's the only thing I'm disliking about my playthrough this time of Final Fantasy 13. But yeah, I'm on chapter 9 out of 13, so I could potentially be finishing this one soon and moving on to 12 part 2. Hello mate, Morg says in the chat. What's up, Morg? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a nice weekend. So that's all I've got to say for Final Fantasy. So I'm going to start with the next game, which is one that I just started a couple of days ago. Now, this has been in my PlayStation backlog for some time. I think I got it for Christmas last year, actually, and I still haven't played it. But that is Returnal. Always loved the look of this one when they first announced it all those years ago. It had all those right atmosphere, it felt like a Geiger-esque sort of alien game. Roguelikes have generally not been my type of game, really. Besides things like Binding of Isaac. So with this being a big budget title, the graphics and everything looked awesome on it. I thought now's the time for me to finally try Returnal, and I've got to say, it's fun as hell. But I'm struggling. I'm having a really hard time getting my head around the mechanics, because if you don't know what Returnal is, it's essentially you crash land on this planet full of these creatures and mysteries, and every time you die, it's like a time loop. You wake up again and start the whole thing again. You lose all of your progress and your weapons and stuff, and you have to keep doing it until you can kind of get enough progression through the round to be able to take on the boss. And I haven't been able to do that yet. I think I'm 4 hours in and I still haven't beat the first boss in the game. I'm still trying to figure out just how the mechanics of the game work, because some things do carry over permanently after you die, but I don't know which things are and which things are temporary. So I'm just trying to get my head around how to do it. But other than that, I'm having a blast with the game. It says something when I'm dying over and over again, and I keep coming back in and keep playing the game. So I think once it clicks with me, I'm gonna have a really good time with this. I've only seen the one level so far, and from what I have seen of like the trailers and stuff, that the environments and the atmosphere of the game looks really incredible. So hopefully I go back on it maybe tonight or tomorrow. I can try and get this boss. I'll be happy with just getting past the first boss for now, but Returnal has been a good time so far. And one thing I will say is the DualSense features and the haptic features of the controller really shine on this one. It's one of the games on the PS5 that uses it the most. Just the different sounds of the gun, the different types of guns, and the alternate fire. I think you hold the left trigger down to aim, but if you hold it down, you have to push it down really hard, then you get the secondary fire. So it's just a really clever way of utilizing the controller, really. So Returnal is super fun. I just need to make it click. I need to get my head around it and figure out how to just work how the thing works, essentially. So that is Returnal. So I haven't really been playing anything else over the last couple of weeks. It's mostly just been trying to get through Elden Ring. But this week we had the first little piece of the E3 puzzle here. So I'm always excited for the E3 season, even though we don't really get that anymore. We don't have a whole weekend where all of the companies come together, but the main bulk of it will be happening next week. But last week we had, well, a couple of days ago now, we had the Sony PlayStation State of Play. And I wasn't sure whether to get my hype up too much for this one. I wasn't sure what was going to be shown there. But we had some very, very cool stuff there. So I'm gonna save some of the more interesting things till the last, so we can talk about that in more depth. But the first thing I'll talk about is at the Sony PlayStation State of Play is the reveal that Spider-Man is now coming to PC. Now this is definitely not the first PlayStation exclusive that has come to the PC, so it seems to be becoming more and more frequent. In fact, Returnal is rumored to be coming to PC and Ghost of Tsushima. So I'm quite happy that Sony are doing this. It kind of sucks for early adopters who bought the games on console and have a PC, because obviously you probably would pick up a PC version if they came out on the same day. But it's good for in the future. So if you wanted to play these games again in maybe 5-10 years and you've upgraded your computer, you're going to be able to play this in like, I don't know, 8K at 60 frames, and it's going to look incredible. It's going to continue to keep looking better as the technology grows. So it's good to see these PlayStation games coming to the PC. It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't take anything away from the consoles. There is a certain set of audiences of people who hate this thing happening, and they feel like their exclusivity is being robbed from them by games going to other consoles. But in my opinion, if it's coming to another platform, it's only going to be more successful and more people are going to be able to play it. So yeah, I don't get involved with any of the negativity of things like this, but I just want Bloodborne on PC now. And I don't know, why don't they bring Until Dawn to the PC? That would be a pretty cool one, right? So as I said, with playing Final Fantasy 13, that I'm trying to get up to date with the games. I only have the 13 games and then 15 really, and then I'm ready for 7 Remake and 16. And we haven't really found out anything about 16 besides its first trailer. So at the State of Play, we had a big gameplay trailer here, and like this thing looks pretty insane. I'm not quite sure how the combat works because I haven't played 15, but it looks pretty insane. It looks like it's more of a realistic looking game, just in the art design. All the sort of like, it looks very sort of muddy and grey and gritty, and I'm not sure if that's like my favoured type of art style, especially in a Final Fantasy game, because I'm loving all the colourful things you see in 13, but they're definitely going with that vibe. It feels like more of a sort of Dragon Age or Witcher style game. It looks action packed, and the big summons look incredible. But this game's not coming out till summer of 2023. Now that's nearly a year, or maybe even a year until it's released. So we got a long wait for it. So I mean, I'm happy that I can finish these games in time for it. But at the same time, people have been waiting for this game for a long time. And I think a lot of people are actually expecting this to be coming out this year. There was rumors that the game was almost done and it's polished, which they have confirmed that is the case, but they've still got a year to wait on it. So there were rumors that if Final Fantasy was ready to ship, they were going to swap it with Forspoken, and I could not see that happening because Forspoken has a release date for this year, so I can't see them swapping out Final Fantasy with Forspoken just because it's more of a popular game. So summer 2023, I should be ready in time to play it then, and honestly, that'll be the first time I play a Final Fantasy game in the year it came out in basically ever. So I am interested to see how that game shapes up in the next year, but the games that were sort of not announced but just shown later in the state of play are the things that really got me interested. So next up, we're going to be talking about the gameplay trailer for the Callisto Protocol. This is a horror game that comes out in December this year, so we've just got a release date. This is the game that is essentially a spiritual successor to Dead Space. It's made by some of the people who were on the original Dead Space team, and now we're getting their own sort of take on it. And from what I've seen from the trailer, it looks like it's very similar to the game, and that's not a bad thing at all because I love Dead Space. I just love the atmosphere in that game. You're just walking around on a space station. You are like a mechanic, so you're not this badass Chris Redfield punching boulders. You're just a mechanic who's using his tools to survive against these creatures. Now, I'm not sure if you have more of a arsenary in Callisto Protocol, but from the trailer, I'm getting similar vibes to it. So I cannot wait for that. And the gore looks on point. If you are watching the visual version here, there's a little thumbnail from the trailer, I think, and it has this like two-headed creature who's just like covered in gore and the slime coming out of his mouth and everything. And I'm looking forward to playing it. So they've really pushed hard to get this one out before Dead Space, before it steals its thunder. And if this game is anything like the caliber of Dead Space, we could be seeing a new franchise here that's going to be very successful, and I can't wait to play it. So yeah, it's going to be a good sort of next 6 months for horror games. Callisto Protocol is looking dope as hell. So maybe a possible day one. I'm not quite sure yet, but let's move on to some more horror related news that was revealed at the PlayStation State of Play. So we have now got an announcement that RE Village Resident Evil 8 is getting a VR mode. They haven't shown any of the other DLC yet, which is a bit surprising because it's been so long now and we've only seen the VR mode. That's more of a sort of add-on to the main game. It's not really new content. So I'm just curious to see what's the hold up with them actually making additional content. But I've been playing a lot of VR lately, and PSVR 2 is looking incredible. So I can't wait to play Resident Evil Village in VR, especially from the trailer. It looks like they have kind of rebuilt the gameplay around it, like Resident Evil 4's VR mode, where you can sort of probably reload the guns and aim and do all kinds of stuff. Instead of it being like RE7's PS4 VR, where you just move with the controller and it was just looking around essentially. You weren't really getting to get into the action. So I think they're going to do a superb job with this one. Can't wait to play it, honestly. I never streamed the game or never did a playthrough of the game on my channel when it came out back in the day, back in last year, because I didn't want to kind of ruin the experience of it. So now, being a second playthrough in VR, it gives me a really good reason to stream this game over on Twitch and do a let's play for the YouTube channel. So that's going to be really interesting to see how the VR version works into the feel of the game, especially with the PS5's controllers and haptics and stuff. I hope they make it creepy as hell. So there's one game that I did forget to mention to put on this list of news. I'll go over it briefly, but the Horizon Call to the Mountain VR game looked cool as well. They've announced a few games for the VR headset now, but we don't have a release date or a price for the headset. So hopefully it comes out in 2022, but if not, I mean, I can wait. I've got plenty of games to play, but Call on the Mountain looks insane as well. It looks like it's very hands-on VR game. We have to scrap with these robots, like using bow and arrows and climbing and jumping. So this looks like it's going to be their sort of showcase launch title, but I still haven't played Horizon Forbidden West yet either. So I mean, I'm falling behind on this PlayStation backlog, but once I get through Return, I'll be able to catch up a bit and get there in time for Horizon Call of the Mountains release, hopefully. So let's talk about the big announcement for the state of play. Now, this is something that I did think was going to be announced here or at least over the week. With Capcom being a partner, I thought they couldn't really just announce. Well, they could have just announced some DLC for Resident Evil 4, for Resident Evil Village, but they'd like to have this sort of yearly cycle where they bring a new game out, and the rumors and the leaks have all been pointing towards Resident Evil 4. Now, I had a feeling that we would be getting to see it, but I wasn't sure if we are going to be seeing just a logo release or an image or something. And we got basically a full teaser trailer here. So Resident Evil 4 has been announced, coming out in March of 2023. And now that is sooner than I even expected. I think I said in a Discord not long ago that I think it's going to come out in April next year, like sooner. I thought that was a soon date. That was like a hopeful date, an optimistic date. It's actually coming out earlier than that. So they've obviously been working on this for a while. I think it was being developed by the people who made Resident Evil 2. So I wonder if they started doing that not long after 2, honestly. So RE4 is being remade, Wesker says in the chat. Of course it is. Demomorg is hyped for this too. So these are people in the chat who are very excited for Resident Evil, obviously. So if you guys have any questions about Resident Evil 4 or Resident Evil Village, do let me know in the chat and I will discuss them in the podcast. But yeah, the game's coming out in April, and from the trailer, I mean, if you're watching the visual version, you can see Leon there, and he looks moody as hell. He looks like he's been through some shit, and even come across that in the dialogue. But this game, it looks like they're definitely leaning on the horror element of it compared to the more action style of the original game, and I'm all there for it because that's it. I want the horror game. I want the survival horror. I want the feeling of RE2 remake, but in RE4 setting. So from the trailer and from the post that they put out, it seems like they are reimagining the story to be more of a survival horror and make it just suit the game, but still keep the fundamentals of what people like about Resident Evil 4 and the story. So from the trailer, we get to see Leon basically walking through some woods. We see some Gyarados, we see Ashley, we see Ada, who's got a completely different outfit now. And I think people are pointing out that what Leon is wearing is the jacket from Resident Evil 3.5. Now, if they are going the horror route, you can tell these guys are digging deep into the Resident Evil sort of lore, because I think the jacket he's wearing is from 3.5, which is a early cancelled version of Resident Evil 4, which was definitely more supernatural and horror based. So I don't know if that's a deep cut or not. I don't know if they're trying to tell us something, but yeah, I can't wait to see what this game is going to have in store for us. We have the same likeness and probably the voice acting from Leon from Resident Evil 2, and that was always one of the most interesting things that we were going to have to get our heads around in this version, is how they adapt the Resident Evil 2 remake Leon into this more like a veteran hardened action hero Leon, because the contrast between him and the original games was so stark. He went for some he had ginger hair in the first game in Resident Evil 2, I think, from the cutscenes and stuff, and then he just changed his look completely to the one we all know and love now. So it's going to be good fun to see the transformation between that character and the one in the Resident Evil 4 remake, because they never really felt like sequels to me, 2 and 4. They just felt like different. Could have even been like a parallel universe with how Leon was different and how much you didn't really get to see his character's sort of feelings or emotions about previous events. And it seems they are going to be working that into the story a lot, because in the trailer we see Leon mentioning how he thinks he sort of failed at Raccoon City and this time it's going to be different. So he seems to be carrying a lot of baggage that you don't really get to see in the original game. So Morgan said in the chat, do you think they will change the island section with the amount of hate it gets? Yes, I do. But I don't know how they're going to change it, because I think it's probably in their best interest to remove it entirely. They could condense the game down into just the village, make the village bigger, and the castle, and make the castle be sort of the end game, and just change around some of the bosses to make them more themed to that area. So I don't know how they're going to do it. They could have the island in there for classic fans, but they'd have to really do some serious changes to it with some of the enemy types and things. I just don't. I've never. This is just a personal thing, and I think it's the same for a lot of people of the original game, fans of the original games, that they don't want to see Gyarados with ski masks and AK-47s and guys with miniguns and berets and those guys with like the silver armor and spiky shoulder pads and metal masks. That those things, I mean, they could be worked into it in a way which is interesting if they are like experiments and stuff, but I don't know. There's something about that just really has never gelled with me. Coming from a fan of the original games, going into 4 being more of an action-based game already, when they started changing up to the island section, it was a big departure. So I think if they are going with a horror route in this one, they're going to have to either chop it completely or just, I don't know. It's a really tough question to answer, but the thing that can make the island section a lot better is if they just absolutely smash it with atmosphere, make it a thunderstorm, make it lightning striking and darkness everywhere. So you see the Gyarados are just creeping around corners and jumping out. You make it scary at least, or in fact, just get rid of the whole section outdoors where you're getting up to the mountains with the Gyarados. Go straight to the sort of regenerator section. Make it just like a cut through section towards the end of the game. I don't know. There's a lot of things they can do with it, but it's one of those things where you can't really say how they can change it for the better. But I do hope it is a lot scarier at least. So I guess we will have to wait and see. There's a lot of people who want other things removed in the game, like the giant Salazar statue robot thing. Those are the things that, like, logistically you think, why is this thing built and what is the use for it and how long has it been there for? So I'm hoping they really center the story to make more sense about why these things are here, why these people are acting this way, and maybe some more of the bigger picture about how it connects to some of the other games, because I do feel like there are some links to be made between Resident Evil 4 and like 5 and Village and maybe even 7, just a way to sort of make things make more sense. Because Resident Evil 4 is very standalone compared to the original games. It doesn't really have that much connection besides Ada and maybe the virus. I don't know. But I feel like 8 and Village have the most in common, and if they can sort of work out the lore in a way that is more interesting for both games, then I would absolutely be there for that. But the graphics look insane in the game. Can't wait to see some of these bosses. I wonder if we get to see, what's the guy called? The Chief Mendez. I'm wondering if Chief Mendez is going to be more of a chase character like Nemesis or Mr. X. I think Morgan pointed out that he's wearing like a hat in this one, so I wonder if that's a little nod that this character is going to be more of I cannot remember what the name they call that type of character is, but someone who chases you relentlessly through the game. So hopefully they do that with the game. I'm hoping they just really make it, I don't know, more like a Resident Evil, more like a survival horror game. We got the mines to go into. We got El Salvador, the guy with the chainsaw. So they've luckily not shown this guy in the trailers, I don't think. So it'd be a blast to see the whole village intro section, because that is one of the craziest parts in that game. Definitely one of the most iconic parts of that game, I think. But we're getting this game in March, so that's not even that far away, really. Plenty of time to get through Callisto Protocol and Dead Space. But that's all I've really got to talk about for today's topics. I know that there is going to be a shit ton of things to talk about next week with the Summer Games Fest on Friday, I think it is. And then we have a few other ones throughout the weekend, but then the other big one is the Xbox and Bethesda and my throat is fucked. The Xbox and Bethesda show on Sunday. So I'm assuming that the Friday and the Sunday are going to be the ones with the most news. I have a feeling we are going to see Silent Hill on Friday at Summer Games Fest. A type of Silent Hill. Is it the Silent Hill 2 remake that's been rumored? Are we going to be able to see this one that's more like Until Dawn? Or is this a secret Kojima production? I don't know, but I think we're going to see one. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the weekend and see what my thoughts are on that one. So definitely stay tuned for that, because I will be definitely doing a podcast around the whole E3 thing next week. I thought it'd be good to get this one out beforehand and speak about some of these subjects in more depth. Mostly Resident Evil, because that's the one that's the big thing to talk about here. And I can't believe they've shown it right at the beginning of the event as well. As soon as the music kicked in and the font was kicking in, I was like, this is either Last of Us or it's Resident Evil 4. So yeah, it was when I was just blown away that we were seeing Resident Evil 4 at the beginning of this event, and it's coming out in March. The Capcom are really on fire at the moment. Really, they are firing all cylinders. Weesker says Silent Hill, please. Yeah, I think it's coming, honestly. And with the Summer Game Fest poster where it shows off the people who are there, Bloober Team is there. Now, hate it or love it, a lot of people are either a fan of their stuff or they're not a fan of their stuff. If they're there and they're that high up on the lineup for this Summer Game Fest, I feel like they're going to be showing it off. And they are rumored to be making the Silent Hill 2 remake. Now, I have no problem with this being made. Like, I'll play it. I'll either love it. I might not like it, but it's not going to take away my enjoyment of the original game if it is a remake. But I am excited to see what's going on. Even if it just comes out, it's going to be showing people that a Silent Hill game can still be made in this day and age, and they should definitely try and continue, even if they fuck it up. Like, they're gonna make mega bucks from it, so maybe someone will get it right if they don't. Even though I'm still hoping one day we do get the Kojima PT version. That's not completely off the table. It could still happen. Money talks, doesn't it? So yeah, I'm not sure what else I am expecting to see next week. So it could be anything, really. It could be anything. We could see some more of the PlayStation stuff be announced at the Summer Game Fest, because they did say the state of play was more focused on third party stuff, but they might be keeping some of the first party stuff for the Summer Game Fest, like the God of War release date and what other things, like even Bloodborne. They could be the Bloodborne PC version. Who knows? This is wishful thinking, but I guess we will find out next week. So thank you all for watching or listening to my podcast, and I will be back definitely around this time, or maybe early next week. Well, the week after the E3 event. So yeah, stay tuned on either Twitch, YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, and you will find my next podcast will be going up as soon as it is available. So thank you all for watching, listening, and I will see you guys in the next one.